I've got another little story for you. It's about consumer products. The companies that manufacture the feedstocks that go into our computer products and the designers who are making these things, they know what they put in, but it's not so transparent for the consumer. So to learn more about where the surprising places are that microplastics and chemical additives turn up in our consumer lives, we teamed up at the Vrije here in Amsterdam with the Plastic Soup Foundation to start screening some of these products. So our products, what we're doing in this project is to look at both the additives, when there are very many, we've heard about them in this session, and also the particles which contain the additives. And these are made up of monomers, the building blocks that get put into big long chains, and maybe partly to challenge analytical chemists some more. Sometimes these monomers are mixed up with with each other to make copolymers, and that's when you have different monomers in one polymer. And what I call this is one great big cocktail. Looks like what we just had in the break. And so there's every time I do a talk, I look up how many plastic materials are now on the market, and there's now over 5,000 plastic grades that you can look up on campusplastics.com. So this is our goal. We want to find out what's in our stuff, and I'm going to give you a little impression of a few examples. So back in 2014, I started writing reports about cosmetics and started learning more than I ever expected to learn about cosmetics and how they're formulated. There was a report for the Dutch government and then for the UN. But I must say that when I looked at this product, which we saw in the film in the beginning of the day, it's an anti-wrinkle cream, and I looked at this image, and these are all tiny little polyethylene beads. And I just thought most people don't realize that we are smearing these beads, which are between around 1 micron and over 100 microns, all over our faces. And I remembered the reason for doing this is that these little beads will sit into your wrinkles, and they will deflect the light in a way that you don't see shadows, and you look much younger than you really are. But it's interesting to wonder who of us has polyethylene on their faces today, and do we really want it there? You probably also heard about exfoliating beads in shower gel. Well, this is what it looks like up close. They're not beads, after all. They're pulverized pieces of polyethylene. And in this particular product, about 10% of the product's weight was made up of this polyethylene. In fact, if you look at the tube that it comes in, it's around the same amount. So if you put the tube through a shredder, you'd get around the same amount of polyethylene as you do in the product itself. I often think about how design signals human intentions, and we have to ask ourselves when we're confronted with images like this and information, what intention do the makers of these products have? We also looked at 14 different tea bags, and in these two we found polyester and nylon fiber, which has been made famous last week by a new study from the United States. They also claimed that billions of nano and other plastic particles may be released into your teacup. What does that mean for the tea drinker? A study like this brings this question to mind. Over at the Vrije here in Amsterdam, we are provided by the university with free disposable cups at our coffee machines. And we checked the lining of these cups, and we found out that they're just lined with low-density polyethylene. And we, after sending this around to the department, I noticed that a few more people have switched to ceramic cups than before. So what kind of information does that, what kind of effect does that sort of information have? It's powerful because people can decide for themselves whether they want to be a little bit more plastic or a little bit less plastic in some cases. You have to know this information to make those decisions. In this project, we're also looking at Yes. We're also looking at the chemical additives, as I mentioned. We're still working. We have a whole bunch of bags of products to look through. We've looked through about 50 already. I'll show you some examples of something we've worked out previously. These are children's toys, where that's the last place you might expect to find brominated flame retardants. However, these are the PBDEs. They're on the Stockholm Convention list of chemicals that should be phased out. And these are at relatively high concentrations. Also, the decabrominated version of these chemicals was very high. We also see in this chromatogram at the bottom a lot of peaks for some brominated flame retardants that we don't even know what they were. Especially these black plastics are often suspect because they often contain a big mix of previously used plastics. So these are recyclates. And a study like this just shows how desirable it actually is to weed out the toxic chemicals before you put the plastic back into the waste stream. This is a really key feature of the circular economy that sometimes is forgotten because we tend to focus very much on the recycling phase, but actually the quality of the recyclates are very important. So at our analytical chemistry lab, we are trying to make the invisible visible so that at places like this, we can talk about it. So I really see our role as scientists as contributing to this information flow. However, there are a lot of uncertainties in the data that's coming out, as I mentioned before, and these uncertainties can be quite high with lots of variability. And yet we really want evidence-based decisions. But at this point, evidence-based decisions can lead to one-sided dramatic simplifications of the real situation. And the stakes are high, as we see from all the interest here. Values, economics, and ethics will be hotly debated alongside any data that we produce. And the decisions, we know, are urgent. And we have actually found ourselves in the realm of what they call postnormal science. We still have data gaps, and we can expect multiple viewpoints out there and within the science world on how to proceed. I often think about how we have landed in the age of our consumer society and managed to distribute plastics around the planet. We're sending a message to the future because in the year 3000, if whoever is out there in that age will probably be able to find plastics that we've produced in 2019. It's part of the geological record now, as Susan Shaw showed us. Some call it the Anthropocene. We're in an age dominated by the Anthropos. Other people have been calling it the Capitalocene, dominated by capital, perhaps. I think it's important, and what we're doing here is really asking ourselves if our contemporary plastics applications are really congruent with our best science. Is this the best we can do? And are we protecting not only the environment, but also human health? I'll end with saying that I think it's important that we keep measuring both microplastics and the chemicals mentioned in this session that are additives in plastics. We need that for risk assessment purposes, but also to raise awareness, as the Plastic Soup Foundation has been doing. I call the data that we're collecting, both for risk assessment and for public awareness, data with a cause. Thank you. I think also I want to make the point that scientists like me and like the scientists you've seen today, we are interested in contributing to this information flow. But really, in the time when we don't know everything, we really need everybody on board. There should be all the voices heard. We should be scrutinizing all of the claimed benefits and all of the claimed risks. We should be reducing our blind spots now that we've had some early warnings. And we should also try to break down some barriers to interdisciplinary learning, which I think the ZonMV projects are also contributing to. So let's collaborate. Thank you very much.